Location of the Temple Mount in the Bible. The Jews consider the site of the Temple Mount to be the exact place where two of their temples once stood. Later Jewish traditions added more mythical details to the biblical narrative. First, let's look at the foundation rock on the Temple Mount. This is the foundation rock. It is located beneath the Dome of the Rock shrine today. Post-biblical Jewish traditions believe this way. The foundation rock on the Temple Mount was a rock of creation. God created the entire world and the universe around this foundation stone on the Temple Mount. Mishnah Tanhuma, a 7th to 8th century text, points out the significance of the rock in this manner. So the navel is set in the center of the human body. So is the land of Israel the navel of the world, situated in the center of the world, and Jerusalem in the center of the land of Israel, and the sanctuary in the center of Jerusalem, and the holy place in the center of the sanctuary, and the ark in the center of the holy place, and the foundation stone before the holy place, because from it the world was founded. Talmud Tractate Yoma 54b also says that it was from this rock the world was created, itself being the first part of the earth to come into existence. Also, according to Talmud, it was close to here, on the site of the altar, that God gathered the earth and formed the first human being, Adam. It was on this rock that Adam, and later on Cain and Abel and Noah, offered sacrifices to God. And this is what late Jewish traditions believe. But what the Bible says about the location of the Temple Mount. Let's go over 3 biblical references that can help us roughly locate the place of Western Jewish temples. Mount Moriah and Abraham. First, Bible tells us the location where the temple was built was on the region of Mount Moriah, on a particular mountain. You might remember God's test of Abraham. God asked Abraham to offer his son, his only son, Isaac, as a sacrifice. We read God's command in Genesis chapter 22, verse 2. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. He said, Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. The mountain is identified as Mariah in Genesis chapter 22. Jewish sources identify this foundation rock on the Temple Mount as the place of the binding of Isaac, where Abraham fulfilled God's test to see if he would be willing to sacrifice his son. So this same site was later chosen by David and his son Solomon to establish the first Jewish temple. The second reference comes from 2 Samuel chapter 24. Now, King David came under divine wrath for taking a census, counting of all able-bodied Israelites. As a punishment, God gave David 3 options, and David chose the shortest one, 3 days of plague on the nation. As the plague ravaged the nation, many in Israel died, and David felt devastated, and he was praying to God for mercy. God sent his prophet to talk to David. God told David to buy the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite and offer sacrifices on that spot. We read this in 2 Samuel chapter 24, verses 18 to 25. Verse 18, on that day, God went to David and said to him, Go up and build an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen and paid 50 shekels of silver for them. David built an altar to the Lord there and sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then the Lord answered his prayer in behalf of the land, and the plague on Israel was stopped. Jews believe that the first temple was built on the same site, on the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite. The third Bible reference comes from 2 Chronicles chapter 3. It brings together both Abraham and David's association with Mount Moriah and the Araunah's threshing floor together. King Solomon, the son of King David, is said to have commissioned the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. Solomon's temple, also known as the first temple, was built in the 10th century BC and completed in 967 BC. The account of the building of the temple is found in the biblical books of 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles. Bible says that it was built on the same site of Mount Moriah, where Abraham was tested, and the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite, which David bought to offer sacrifices. We find the reference in 2 Chronicles chapter 3, verse 1. Then Solomon began to build the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where the Lord had appeared to his father David. It was on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite, the place provided by David. So Solomon's temple was a central place of worship in ancient Israel.